Oh boy, man. Besides the attendance at All In, one of the biggest things talked about was CM Punk and Jack Perry getting into a scrap backstage. That should not be the highlight of the event, ladies and gentlemen. The fact that someone else that's not named WWE held an event in a stadium so big where they had over 81,000 fans jam-packed to watch a wrestling spectacle is what should be the narrative. Not CM Punk and Jack Perry taking the spotlight. That's ridiculous. But grab your snacks. We're going to be here for a while. We're going to talk about all 11 matches that went down at All In, including the 0 Hour. I ordered the pay-per-view. Shout out to Sins. We split it. We saw it. We enjoyed it. We did a watch party. So if you weren't subscribed to the channel when we were watching it, subscribe. If you haven't dropped a like, drop a like. And while I'm going over the matches, hit me up in the comments section with some of your thoughts on each match or whatever match you enjoyed most. All right? So we got that out the way. Let's not talk about Jack Perry and CM Punk. That's another video. Beautiful sight to see. I'm so happy that AEW All In London was such a massive success to the point that they're going back in 2024. This is far from perfect. All In, could have had more women inclusion. They could have done better booking in terms of build up for the show. It didn't feel like WrestleMania. But it doesn't mean it didn't feel special. Hold on. Before you guys, come at me, let me finish. All right? Let me say what I have to say before you come at me with my comments here. All right? So just hold your horses because I loved All In. I was all for it. When we ordered the pay-per-view, we already knew the match card. We didn't do the hype-up pre-order way before anything was announced. So going into the show, I already knew that it was a lot of multi-man tag matches. It was a lot of old feuds and recycled stories that were trying to promote these as like lifelong rivalries or extensive rivalries, when in all reality, it was just poor building leading into the show. But that didn't take away from the product itself at the event, because the matchups, right? The superstars that were present at All In all showed up and showed out. We know AEW takes pride in its pro wrestling and its storytelling within the ring. That's exactly what they did. As soon as the show started, even in the pre-show, they had a little bit of a panel lineup, built up to kind of go over the show. But we had action, 2 matches. And the first match to kick things off was MJF and Adam Cole versus Aussie Open. It was for the Ring of Honor tag titles. Now, this had nothing to do with the tournament they did because they lost to FTR in that tournament. But they're going for the tag titles that belong to Ring of Honor nonetheless. And this was going to be interesting because it was not only kicking off the All In pay-per-view, but what does that mean for the main event? So going into this match, it was literally a toss-up. I didn't know what the hell was going to happen. And I was shocked to see Adam Cole and MJF pull through. They did not turn on each other. They made it work. And they executed their double clothesline, secured the victory, and became the brand new Ring of Honor champions. Now, this match lasted for about 7 minutes. This match couldn't go for long. It was 7 minutes and 45 seconds. I'm looking at the time here. So that's good enough considering they're in the main event and they're getting ready to put on a barn burner for themselves. In terms of story, though, I thought this worked really well, and it got me hyped up to see the main event and see what the hell they were going to do with that. It was some good shit. So then we went into Hook versus Jack Perry. This was for the FTW Championship, which I don't really like that whole idea because AEW doesn't even acknowledge it as a title. It's just a title that, obviously comes from the ECW days. Taz, more notably, carrying that title. Well, his son Hook is involved in this story. He was the former champion. Jack Perry got the belt, and they fought all over. I love that they They had that limo that was so beautiful looking get destroyed. We had some good action just about everywhere around the Titatron and the ring area for fans to see. Because let's face it, that stadium is so big, it's really hard to enjoy all the action just in one spot in the ring. So the fact that they started early going into the crowd area, you know, by the Titatron, that was nice to see. The glass breaking, that's where Jack Perry took a shot at CM Punk saying, the glass is real. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. Here we go with the freaking drama. But that match lasted about 8 minutes and 20 seconds. And it was good. It could have gone for a little longer. And I think on the pre-show they should have had another women's match. But they're saving things for All Out. All right? Keep in mind that we have another AEW pay-per-view coming next week, which is a little bit odd considering that a lot of wrestlers within AEW, like CM Punk being one of them, has made fun of WrestleMania being 2 nights. So, I don't know. Doing a pay-per-view 1 week apart from each other and making people pay premium for both pay-per-views is just crazy to me, but Tony Khan is a crazy man and with crazy aspirations, and that's what got him this far. So, whatever. Keep pushing the boundaries. So, to open up the actual pay-per-view, the pay-per-view that you paid for, it was CM Punk versus Samoa Joe. This was one that I was a little disappointed in because, not the match itself, guys. I'm talking about the build-up, all right? They didn't show the promo at the start of the pay-per-view. They showed it in the pre-show. So people that ordered the pay-per-view and didn't watch the pre-show didn't get to see the promo to build up the match. So that alone kind of got me off to a rough start. They didn't have fireworks to start off the show because it was still daytime. And they didn't really show a video package to open the pay-per-view. Sometimes WWE does it, sometimes they don't. But for me, I always criticize when there's not like one of those montage videos. I love it. It gets me riled up. I love listening to, you know, the announcer say, tonight, all in London, we have, you know, and just build up the show. I like that. You know, I would have enjoyed that. But they kick the action. They kick right into the action, and CM Punk goes toe-to-toe with Samoa Joe in a match that lasted 14 minutes, including entrances. It was about 20 minutes. It was just a singles match for the real championship. CM Punk just took the title out of the bag. We knew that Samoa Joe, it was going to be a tough call for him to win that one. But nonetheless, the match itself was really good. I thought that CM Punk really showed up. Samoa Joe did what he does best, which is show up and show out. He is still as good as ever. And these two gentlemen really left it all in the ring. CM Punk got hit with the announcer's table and was bleeding all crazy. I like when they do those spots in the pay-per-view, so it was nice to see the dedication from CM Punk. And Samoa Joe is just a badass, so all things justified here. CM Punk did get the victory, and he won by pinfall, which was crazy because he did his old finisher off the turnbuckle. That was kind of like a hit or miss. For me, it was like, I get it, but whatever. It was just kind of like a shrug because the rest of the match was so good. And then the second match, which is the fourth match of the night already, it was the Bullet Club Gold, as they call it. Juice Robinson and Jay White with Takeshita, along with Don Callis there. And then you got the Guns ringside, which was a little bit much. But you got the Golden Elite, as Kenny Omega calls it, with Kota Ibushi and Hangman Adam Page, two former tag partners for Kenny here. Which is this is a story that builds itself, right? Because you got the Bullet Club versus Kenny Omega that used to be in the Bullet Club, so that's a story that kind of writes itself. And it's one of those stories that could have been built up a little different to stretch up a little bit, because I don't really like. I was more focused on the fact that Don Callis betrayed Kenny Omega, and that Kenny Omega was more focused on Takeshita. I think that's how you say it. I spent all night trying to get it right, and unfortunately, I'm just really bad with it. I don't mean to be disrespectful. I'm really sorry. But point is, that's the feud. That's the one-on-one we wanted, and they saved it for All Out because at the press conference, they announced that Kenny Omega will indeed go one-on-one, all right, with Takeshita. And that 6-man tag was 20 minutes. That was amazing. Even better than the CM Punk versus Samoa Joe match. Jay White, man, I know he's with the Bullet Club or the Bullet Gold Club or whatever. Guys, I just feel like Jay White is one of those top stars, and they need to build him like that. They got to stop putting him in these little matches where he gets lost on the card. And Kenny Omega, man, the guy is just a stud. The crowd went nuts when he came out. That's really when the show was like good and started getting great. When you started seeing these guys like Kenny Omega, that the crowd just really got behind, because the Samoa Joe and CM Punk match, people were into it, but you saw the difference when Kenny Omega showed up. So that match was cool. The Gun Club obviously got involved. The biggest surprise here was that it ended in a roll-up, and that's what kind of spun the story into turning into a 1v1 with Konosuke and Kenny Omega. Good action, good spots. What more do you want from the 6-man tag, right? And having managers ringside. Everyone got involved. Everyone got a piece of the pie. It was chaotic. It was crazy. It was aggressive. Some high-flying stuff. Everything. Everything you would want in a 6-man tag. And I will tell you, spoiler alert, this 6-man tag was better than the 6-man tag for the titles. The Trios title, this match was way better than the Trios title match, in my opinion. Honestly, for real. Really good that they had this match going second, because it's like they're trying to... They started off with like, all right, that's kind of like... That's the way I felt the show was going. So Tony Khan produced his show pretty darn good. Then we had FTR versus the Young Bucks. Two of the best tag teams in the entire world. You already know that was going to be another classic. This is the third match in their history. And the rubber match, as they called it. Again, build-up wasn't what it needed to be, but they already have a story in place. With the package that they showed before the match, I bought into all the matches. If there's one thing I could give them credit for, is that they showed packages before each match, and it really brought me into the fold. That match was 21 minutes and 45 seconds. Everyone had a decent amount of time to showcase their talent here, especially the multi-man matches. So FTR, Young Bucks, you already know, been there, done that. We've seen their matches before. These guys are just spectacular. What else can I add to that? There's not much commentary I can say, other than they had a lot of good near falls. They had some great super kicks, some great reversals. And even when it got a little botchy at times, they missed a couple spots, they were able to pick themselves back up instantly, and the show continued, and I absolutely loved it. So up until this point, we've had 5 matches in the night for All In, including the pre-show, and I was just riding a high. I was like, oh my goodness, this show it's so good. It can't get any better. I was wrong. Because even though I don't like extreme, crazy matches where there's like forks and blading and all that shit, the Stadium Stampede match brought that and more. These guys went to the rafters. They went backstage. The camera followed them everywhere. I was just on cloud 9, because this is what I miss. I miss these moments where they would go deep into the crowd. They would go deep into the backstage, and it happened more often during the Attitude Era. WWE does it once in a blue. They want you to, they want to make you feel like it's special, and you're not entitled to it at every pay-per-view. But I feel like even though AEW does it more often, this time with Stadium Stampede, they were able to capture the chaos of the title, right? Stadium Stampede, it wasn't what the first one was during the pandemic when the stadium was completely open, or like the new video game mode that's a battle royale, right? That you could play in AEW Fight Forever, which I absolutely love. Subscribe so you could check out those streams. But, great overall matchup, man. Whether it was Jon Moxley getting hit at the top of his head with the skewers. Oh my goodness, what the hell was that? Or the forks and the tables. I was disgusted and hyped at the same time. Eddie Kingston, man, he makes you feel like there's a lot of bad blood and hate there. You would think that what we're watching is the reality of things, that he just hates everybody, because this guy goes all in, balls to the wall. But no exceptions here. Everyone from top to bottom. Eddie Kingston, Penta, Best Friends, which I don't even really care for Best Friends, but Best Friends, Orange Cassidy. Who else? We got Blackpool Combat Club, also with Santana and Ortiz. Everyone did their job. Exciting spots, just executed beautifully. Ladders, tables, chairs, everything. Oh my goodness, it was overwhelming. And then you're like, all right, this is awesome. What's next? What's next in the lineup? Well, I'll tell you what's next. Sting and Darby Allin versus Swerve Strickland and Christian. What the hell? That coffin match was so dope. Sting is damn near 65 years old. He is the best wrestler I've ever seen in his 60s. Or should I say performer? Because he's not really wrestling anymore. He's brawling and performing. And at a high level, AEW has, chef's kiss, done so well with Sting. I was really, really happy to see Sting jump off and still execute the way he did. I'm scared for him because at 65 years old, your bones are brittle. Hell, I'm turning 34 and I feel like I'm gonna freaking hurt myself doing a lot less than what they were doing in that match. And Darby Allin, what a crazy risk taker. My goodness. Darby Allin, you're sick, bro. Man, and Swerve Strickland proving why he was the best in what's the group, Top Dollar, right? The group with Top Dollar and shit. He's definitely proving why he was the best in that group. Definitely showcasing his talents. And Christian Cage, he was kind of shoehorned into the match, but he is the manager for Luchasaurus, who is having a match with Darby Allin at All Out. So I do like when the long-term booking elements play a role into the matches and the stories being told, because now that kind of spun into the following event. And Swerve sold everything here. The ladders, the tables, not even the ladders, I'm sorry, because that was the last match, but Sting jumping off the ring into the table, into the coffin. The coffin took a beating. They really, really utilized the coffin here. It was disturbing to see how much of a beating that coffin took. That match was only 16 minutes, but every minute counted there. They really executed that one beautifully. So up until this point, we've had 8 total matches. Everyone has done their part. Everyone has made the sacrifices they needed to make. I'm like, all right, AEW. What's coming up next? What's coming up next? And I skipped over one match. I'm so sorry. We're going to circle back. Before the coffin match, we actually had the women's fatal 4-way, which that one, I overskipped it while I was reading my notes here because I was a little bothered by that match. But in case you didn't know, Darby and Sting defeated Swerve Strickland, which I thought was the way to go. This was like a fan service event. That's what it felt like. A lot of fan service here. It was a fan affair. So circling back to the 7th match of the night, after the crazy Stadium Stampede, how do you follow up the Stadium Stampede is what I was thinking. And it wasn't the coffin match. It was actually the Fatal 4-Way, which at that point I'm like, oh, hold on. Before this long match, I thought it was literally going to be 20 minutes long. It's the only women's match on the card. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go take a piss. I'm going to get my ribs out at the kitchen. And I'm going to, get it going with the food because I was starving. We were there. I hadn't eaten. We've been watching the show since the pre-show. I had to break neck and watch in and out because of the way the match was going. Guys, this match ended in 8 minutes and 50 seconds. I actually had to go back and watch to see if I missed anything because it was so short. You have 4 of the top women in the match. I mean, come on. They deserved a little more than 850, and I'm not one of those cheerleaders that says, oh yeah, more women inclusion. I understand that this is a men's game and featuring women is far better for the pacing of any show. than overstuffing it. Sometimes it gets overstuffed and you lose interest. It's just the name of the game. I'm not being sexist. It's just a reality. There's very few women that can carry a show. Mercedes Moné wasn't part of it. She was in the crowd, but it wasn't part of it. All right, and even then, the Fatal 4-Way featured some of the top stars in AEW, and having Paige, Saraya, aka Paige, there with her family, there to capture her moment in front of her home crowd. It was beautiful to see, but it was just very short-lived, and that's where my biggest negative and Debbie Downer moment came in the night. I was just like, come on, man. Like, I wanted to be hyped up for Saraya, and I am happy for her, but I just wasn't hyped up. That was kind of one of those things that I was just like, it shouldn't have ended this quick. But the fact that they followed it by the coffin match and made up for it with Darby and Sting, like, I see what Tony Khan was doing here. He wanted to focus more on some of these other, matches. But if you only have one women's match, none in the pre-show, you got to give them at least 15 to 20 minutes, especially for women in the show there. So that was a big, but it got overshadowed by the fact that Saraya did have her moment, which she fought so hard to get back, but it just didn't feel earned, in my opinion, within the AEW world. If you want to combine, just wrestling, her whole career overseas, WWE, the ups and downs, the injuries, then yes, she definitely earned being champion, but not within that story, in my opinion. So after the coffin match, which was spectacular, as I mentioned earlier, we then followed with just a random singles match, right? So beautifully told. Will Ospreay, Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho has no business being this damn good at this age. Ospreay attacked Chris Jericho in his show. The following week, they had a little contract signing promo type of thing, a face-to-face, and they just knocked it out the park. It got me invested in the match. It felt good. Anything Chris Jericho touches, man, you give Chris Jericho one segment 1 week prior, and he's going to sell you on why you got to watch his match. That's how good Chris Jericho is, and he applied that to this here. He even attacked Will Ospreay the night before at a random indie show over in the UK, I believe, and you start off the match by having not Will Ospreay, but you start off having Chris Jericho perform Judas. The crowd was loving it. I was loving it. I had to mute myself in the stream because it was just so iconic, so beautiful that Chris Jericho, who had headlined, major pay-per-views in WWE, had been part of WrestleMania, had been part of Wrestle Kingdom, has now been another, big feature headliner in All In, and he had 14 minutes, about 15 minutes here to tell a great story with Will Ospreay, who's just one of my favorite superstars outside of AEW and WWE. Man, what a great match. Just flat out beautiful. Will Ospreay beat Chris Jericho, and it felt big time, man. It felt really good. We come up next. We get into another 6-man tag here. Billy Gunn and the Acclaimed go up against House of Black. House of Black having a beautiful moment, paying homage to Bray Wyatt, Wyndham Rotunda, rest in peace. Came out with the lantern. The crowd immediately got behind them with the Firefly style flashlights on their phone. It was a spectacle. Imagine, just 81,000 people doing it. WrestleMania level respect there. So I thought, all right, this is going to be great because the Acclaimed is awesome. Billy Gunn, he's as good as ever. But Billy Gunn showed his age, 59 years old. He's not as good as Sting with the spots and things that he does. Unfortunately, he was very stiff. He looked a little lost and confused within the ring sometimes. It just, using the badass moniker, he didn't do much badass stuff there. That match was only 10 minutes. It felt rushed. All things considered, I see why it was rushed, but I just felt like, it was a bit of a letdown considering that we had such an iconic showdown between the Bullet Club and the Elite Club early into the pay-per-view. That 6-man tag was much better. I would have rather had maybe like a fatal 4-way, with 4 teams with the 3 guys. I don't know, some crazy shit like that, because featuring them in separate matches like this just didn't really, didn't really get me overwhelmed or super hyped up. Maybe I was a little tired, but 10 minutes and 50 seconds for a 6-man tag is just, it's a bit rushed in my opinion, and I get it, because the main event, the moment we've all been waiting for, MJF and Adam Cole, the story of the summer, one of the best stories that AEW has ever told since being brought into the scene in 2019. 4 years, AEW has been around now, and this is one of the best stories they've told. It reminded me of some of the best moments WWE has had in their storytelling, WCW as well. It was just really good to see a story go this deep for a build-up. 29 minutes this match clocked in. It was all about who was going to turn on who, at what point was that going to happen, is the Undisputed Era coming back, is Roderick Strong getting involved, what the hell is going to go down. And for the most part, not only was the crowd going crazy for the match, but they were actually turning on Adam Cole, because Adam Cole was being a sleazebag, trying to take advantage of MJF. MJF was actually being naive and noble, which was crazy to see. But when you see 81,000 people going nuts for Adam Cole, baby, who had only up until joining AEW had done NXT shows as probably some of his biggest work, and MJF, as young as he is, when you have that crowd going nuts, tells you everything you need to know. AEW, tell more stories like this. I know you're constantly trying to involve everyone, and even with the new show Collision and Rampage and all that, you still don't involve everyone just right. Focus on some main stories and elaborate on that, because you get to see the reward. You reap what you sow. You get to see the reward when you have this many people just going crazy. I loved it. It wasn't just some mark moments or some internet fanboy moment. It was a legit wrestling moment. It was one of the only WrestleMania caliber build-ups and matchups in the whole pay-per-view. And that's just my opinion. Take it with a grain of salt. It felt a little dirty when I thought that the match was going to end the way they were teasing it would end. Right? MJF winning and not wanting to extend the time limit. He said, F this. We're not going an extra 5. We're going until there's one winner here. And they left it out all in the ring. The crowd was on the edge of their seats, as was I. Roderick Strong indeed came out. He almost ruined the vibe there, but it was to tease the Undisputed friendship, and it just didn't really get too far, and I'm glad that they focused on the story at hand. I'm glad that MJF ended up winning, even though it was a little cheap roll-up distraction. I like that they were able to still tell the story that they've been working on so hard, because we're going to get a lot more from them too. Now that they're Ring of Honor champions with the tag titles, there's still more to come. And we had a few people on Discord say, oh, they're stretching it like Styles. I didn't want to give him a shout out, but to me, it's just like, guys, if the story is too long, it's overplayed. If it's too short, it's not enough. It's always something. You can always find something to nitpick. And when I look back at All In, and I, away from the hype, away from everything that we witnessed in the heat of the moment, my blood flow going at an all-time high for AEW. I digested what the anticipation for the show was going to be. Again, the multi-man matches, some good long-term booking stuff being told here. The commentary team, telling stories outside of AEW's bubble, expanding beyond, whether it was when they mentioned Bray Wyatt, Mercedes Moné, some of the accomplishments of some of these wrestlers in other places, even mentioning that Penta used the Blue Thunder bomb that's from Sami Zayn's arsenal. They paid respect to El Generico. So just little tidbits like that. Having JR on the show, having Big Show on the pre-show. Renee. Just it felt like a great collective effort and a joy to watch. It was a good show. Not just good, dare I say, damn, it was great. And for it not being built up like WrestleMania or like an epic, crazy event, the narrative here was 81,000. 81,000 was the narrative that they focused on going into this show, along with the MJF and Adam Cole story. So all things considered, the fact that they were able to pull off this epic event with this collective effort, it should not be overshadowed by Jack Perry and CM Punk. It should not be overshadowed by the lack of women on the card. It should be celebrated. And now on to All Out. Let's see what the future holds. We do know they are coming back for All In 2024. I hate that I read online left and right. Everyone, they beat WrestleMania's record. They beat this. It just the comparisons to WWE. It's just ridiculous at this point. I just think that it's just overplayed, played out. I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to go deep into that. This is about celebrating All In. Because if I'm going to sit here and compare All In to WrestleMania, guys, it doesn't matter that they had 81,000 people. What matters is, did they combine storytelling with pro wrestling? They had more pro wrestling than they did storytelling. And the thing that WWE does best is that they tell stories from the top to the bottom of the card. Sometimes it's executed well enough for us to praise and enjoy. Sometimes it's dog shit rushed or stories we don't care about. And it's understandably so, but there's a bunch of stories for you to choose from. All In, if you didn't really keep up with some of the stories outside of the build for All In, there just wasn't much of that. And that's why it's like comparing apples and oranges. The style that AEW is going for is not the WWE formula. So stop comparing. Don't be hypocritical. If you're going to compare AEW to WWE, compare it not just in attendance, or WWE to AEW. Don't compare it to just attendance or fandom or this or wrestlers or that. Let's just be happy, my goodness. Let's be happy that a company outside of WWE can put on this kind of show and provide another place for these wrestlers that we all know and love. Where would Samoa Joe, CM Punk, Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, MJF, the list goes on. I could continue listing. Where would Sting be? Where would, John Moxley, all these wrestlers that don't want to be in WWE or don't care to be in WWE anymore, where would they be? They would be wrestling in New Japan. We probably wouldn't see them like how we see them here in All In. Shit, bro. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and give All In a 10 out of 10. I bought into this pay-per-view because it was a historic show and it delivered on that end. Everyone involved brought their A game. It was pro wrestling at its finest, mixed with even hardcore shit I don't like, mixed in with a lot of overwhelming pro wrestling shit with near falls left and right. But it felt special. It felt awesome for what it was. It delivered. I'm excited to see what's next for AEW, like I mentioned earlier, and I'm going to keep it on that. I'm out of here. Let me know what you thought in the comments if you made it this far into the video. I salute you. Thank you for tuning in. Let's go, man. We're out.
I'd rather lead than be led. I'll fill the seats as I spread with every word that I've said.